Hello and welcome to Dingoes Ate My Podcast. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing the episode Sleep Tight. This episode originally aired March 4th, 2002, attracting approximately 4.5 million viewers. So we're going to do video games last to this time because there is a lot of them. So we're going to start off with number one song in America this week, Dave.
Nothing's immediately coming to mind. I'll probably miss the safe bet from the one last week. And don't specifically remember the title, but I believe one of the artists was Fergie, I believe, worked on it.
So last week was Always on Time with that was by Ja Rule featuring Ashanti.
Ashanti, that was what it was.
Yes, it is not the same this week, though. This week, it is a song called Ain't It Funny Murder Remix by Jennifer Lopez featuring Ja Rule.
Again, not too surprised. I questioned the supposed murder remix.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
curious, though. I might have to actually look up that song.
yeah, I don't know what that means. Anyway, moving on to the number one movie at the box office this week. Any idea what it could be?
Yeah, aside from that supposed war film from last week.
It's not the same as last week.
No, going from there.
It isn't.
Something.
It is an adaptation of a novel.
Hmm.
I don't know how much that'll help in this case, but
Again, the only one thing I can specifically think of was supposedly one of the Lord of the Rings movies, but it may be a bit too early for that.
the first one came out in December, so only a couple of months ago. Those came out like Christmas time.
Yeah, and the span would be a little bit too soon for getting the next one out there.
I think they did them like 3 years back to back because they shot them like all in a row, like back to back to back.
No, that's understandable, just with setup and time. Um, yeah, nothing else immediately comes to mind.
It is a adaptation of the novel The Time Machine by H.G. Wells.
Okay.
I would not expect you to be familiar with this film.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it was certainly a movie, and it certainly did all right at the box office, but you know.
Like it was a thing, and yeah, it was number one at that particular point in time, but I'm sure better things are coming.
Oh, absolutely better things are coming. Anyway, let us move on to video games. Now, because there is a substantial gap between this episode and the next one, like 6 weeks, I'm not going to list everything that comes out in that time because we would be here all day.
Yeah, most likely.
I'm just going to hit the highlights. And on March 4th, there are three highlights.
Well, there we go.
This was an amazing day. Okay, so on the PS2, on the day this episode aired, you could pick up Fatal Frame.
Oh,
You're familiar with Fatal Frame, I take it.
indeed. Not the case of actually playing it, but I know of the series.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think I've ever actually played them. I think I've only seen them played, but it's a series I've always wanted to get into. Also on March 4th, you could pick up Knockout Kings 2002, back when EA actually made boxing games. They did for a little while. And we haven't got one in a long time, and I would love to get a new one. Anyway, moving on, still on March 4th, if you had an Xbox or a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3.
Neat.
Pro Skater 3 was a damn good game. I'm going to skip a few of those. So on March 10th on the PS2, you could pick up Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. March 11th on the PS2, you could pick up Hot Shots Golf 3.
Oh, I vaguely remember that one from advertisements.
Yes. On March 12th on the GameCube, you could pick up 007 Agent Under Fire.
Ah, yes.
which I believe had all. Oh no, sorry, it was coming out for other consoles later. We'll get to that.
Nah.
On March 17th on the PS2, you could pick up Virtua Fighter 4.
Nah.
On March 19th on the GameCube, you could pick up Bloody Roar 3.
Yes. Not. I don't specifically know that one, but I know of the series, and yeah, that was one of them.
It certainly was. March 25th, you could pick up 007 Agent Under Fire on the Xbox.
Ah.
Also on the 25th was a hell of a day as well. On the PS2, you could pick up Deus Ex: The Conspiracy, which, if I remember correctly, is a... Yes, that was basically a port of the original Deus Ex onto PS2.
Wow.
Or, sorry, Deus Ex, I should say, not Deus.
Oh, okay.
Deus Ex. Are you familiar with Deus Ex?
Only from the ones that came out on the Xbox 360.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's fair enough. I would say the original is worth going back to play, but it's not, like, mandatory. Okay. I have to mention this because I didn't even know this was a thing and it made me chuckle. So on March 25th, on the PS1, they didn't even put this on PS2, you could pick up... You could pick up Hooters Road Trip.
Well, on the one hand, I'm supposedly not surprised. And on the other hand, that may have been the only thing that they could supposedly afford to put it on.
Shockingly, the game did not review well.
Yeah, not surprising.
And apparently, somebody went through the... I don't know who did this, but God bless them. Somebody went through the assets on the disc and found out that it was originally called Freewheelin' USA, and they just slapped a Hooters license on it last minute. Oh, that makes me happy. So on March 27th on the PS2, you could pick up Army Men RTS, which is a real-time strategy game featuring like the little Army Men.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they made a bunch of those Army Men games.
No, I think that was the thing at the time that year.
I think it was like the previous generation mostly, but yeah, they were definitely a thing. March 31st on Windows, you could pick up Dungeon Siege. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dungeon Siege.
Like, supposedly it rings somewhat of a bell, but I've got nothing.
Yeah, it's like a high fantasy, kind of like almost like a Dungeons and Dragons game. Yeah. March 31st, you could also pick up Scorpion King, the Sword of Osiris on the Game Boy Advance. Because I guess in theory you might want to play that. And the last few games before... there's only one more game before the next episode. And it's a game that came out only in PAL regions and in Europe. It's a game called Evil Twin Cyprian's Chronicles, which came out on April 12th. It certainly looks like a game.
There's one curious thing that I'm wondering, just quickly looking into it. Out of curiosity, was there any particular release on your list that was around the 28th of March?
Nope.
Okay.
Why? What did you find?
Well, it was the case I was curious that the spring of 2002 was supposedly a particular game that was released, and I couldn't find the title, but I quickly looked around and found that, at least from the site that I have here, that the first Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation 2 was released around that time.
Kingdom Hearts came out then? I mean, that seems possible, but let's just pull up... March 28th, 2002, according to this. Yeah, okay. So it looks like that came out... Oh, that's the Japanese release date.
Okay, when it first came out.
Yeah, it didn't come to North America until the fall.
Okay, until then.
That's probably why it wasn't on my list, because my list defaults to North American release.
Oh, okay, that might be the case.
Yes. That will definitely be a game we will talk about, though, when it comes into our timeline.
Oh boy, when it does.
Yes, yes. Alrighty, so let us move on to the episode. Now, okay, so sleep tight. Okay, Wesley has been studying the prophecies regarding Angel and Connor, and his findings have left him convinced that Angel will kill his son. Angel enters Wesley's office, strangely cheerful. He pours a glass of pig's blood, and the two watch Lauren, excuse me, listen to a female client sing. As she does, her face suddenly twists and becomes a horrific demon face before reverting to human form. I also believe she threatens to rip your eyeballs out.
Yeah, that and a little bit of spittle that she spat up while the transformation happened.
Yeah, there's this like green, like, yeah. Justine teaches Holt's minions how to kill vampires. She expresses worry to Holtz about killing the humans associated with Angel, but eventually comes to believe that they deserve to die. Wesley again appears at Holtz's lair to talk about Connor. Angel, Gunn, and Fred find and kill the demonic band. Angel fighting with atypical ferocity. Wesley talks with Holtz about ending the fight before it really begins. Holtz gives Wesley one day to deal with the problem of Angel killing Connor before Holtz gets involved. Angel and the others return to the hotel, and Angel starts chugging blood and shouting about how annoying Connor is. When he throws a glass of blood against the wall, Angel realizes something's very wrong with him. Laura notices Angel's obsession with the blood and suggests that it might have been spiked. Wesley walks the streets until he finds that Justine has been following him. Wesley lectures her about the difference between Holtz and Angel. Fred studies the pig's blood under a microscope, but Angel already knows it's been spiked with Connor's blood, giving Angel a desire for more. Angel finds Lila at a bar, so Jean appears, and although Angel doesn't recognize him from his past, he figures out that Sojan brought Holtz back. Sojan's upset that Angel doesn't remember him and promises retribution before disappearing. Wesley packs Connor's bag as he prepares to take Connor. Lauren watches, concerned that Angel never mentioned Wesley taking Connor for the night. As Wesley hums a lullaby to Connor, Lauren reads his intentions and realizes that he's going to abduct the child. Wesley chases Lauren to the office, knocking him unconscious. Angel returns and agrees to let Wesley take Connor for the night. He wonders where Lauren is, but Wesley explains that he just had to go out for a bit. Angel says his goodbyes to Connor and asks Wesley to investigate Sojan. Offering to do the research at his own place, Wesley takes Connor and leaves the Hyperion on foot. Gunn and Fred offer to keep Angel company through the night without Connor. Holtz and several of his men then show up armed at the hotel. Holtz wants to know where Connor is, but since he's not there, he directs his men to attack but keep Angel alive. As the battle ensues, Lauren wakes up and uses a high-pitched tone to debilitate some of his attackers. Holtz and some of his men retreat, and Lauren reveals that Wesley has been seeing Holtz and has kidnapped Connor. Wesley packs his car and begins to leave with Connor, but a badly beaten Justine stumbles upon him and explains that Holtz has turned his back on her. Justine slits Wesley's throat with a knife and takes Connor, driving away in Wesley's car. Angry because of his lost son and Wesley's betrayal, Angel lets loose on his co-workers, attacking Gunn. Fred breaks up the confrontation and suggests that they focus on the real problem, Connor. Angel threatens some of Holtz's wounded minions until one reveals the location of Holtz's lair. Lila talks with some military types and then goes with them to Holtz's expected location. Angel takes out a couple of them and steals a truck so he can follow them. Holtz gets back into the car with Justine and identifies himself and Justine to Connor as the baby's new parents. Lila's group, Angel, and Holtz all arrive at the bridge at the same time. Sojan appears soon after. Lila explains that she wants the baby alive despite her deal with Sojan. Angel tells Holtz to take Connor so that Connor will live. Sojan opens a dimensional rift to Kothor, a very dark dimension, and explains that either the child dies or everyone gets sucked into the portal. In the interest of survival, Holtz runs with Connor into the rift. Angel tries to follow, but he is thrown back and the rift is mended. The others leave, and a devastated Angel is left laying on the ground, grieving over his lost son. Dun dun dun. So, what did you think of this episode? It was super
Boy.
cheery, right?
Just the action of this particular episode. It was nuts and crazy, and just the case of you thought this was the end of suffering for Angel. You just need to pile it on, pile it on. But
Yes.
again, just with building up from the last episode and all the things that have kind of been going on, it was definitely interesting, especially seeing a bit more of the interactions between all of the particular teams. Wesley was speaking with Holtz, um, Angel speaking with uh, Loaz. He usually does when situations like these arise, and even with the demon kind of popping in, like, and also the case of Angel kind of seeing him for the first time, as it's kind of said. It's like, hmm. So maybe Holtz really isn't like the really bad guy in this situation. At least from how I thought with how the story was sort of going. But yeah, Connor heading into the bad dimension, just ugh,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. He goes into a hell dimension. I think it's interesting that Cordelia wasn't in this episode of the last one, and I feel like that was kind of necessary to take her off the board for a couple episodes.
Yeah, I suppose just with case of whether either she would be over flooded with particular visions, like oh shit, stuff's gonna go down, or the case of she wouldn't even really be necessary because it's stuff that supposedly either needed to happen or the powers didn't see any sort of way to really affect the situation as it is.
I meant from like a writing perspective because like I think you had to take her off the board for this to work because otherwise like we've seen that like Cordelia like is basically Connor's mom. Like she spends a lot of time with that kid, so it would have been a lot harder for Wesley to have that moment to abduct Connor if you still had Cordelia there.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. And of course, the other implications of she probably would be the one that would take him away and go running in that sort of case.
Potentially, but I don't think like the other thing is like Wesley kind of at this point doesn't have anyone he can talk to about the prophecy, right?
Yeah,
Because like he
not
can't really
without
tell
either.
Angel about it.
Yeah, not with other people blabbing about it or causing more supposed issues than it would supposedly fix if he told everyone. Again, it's kind of one of those situations where in the moment it's kind of questionable. In retrospect, it probably could have solved a lot of problems, but either way, it is a thin line to cross.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where he can't really talk to Angel about it because that's a hell of an awkward conversation.
Meh.
Cordelia's away and he can't really reach her, and he's not really comfortable talking with Gunn and Fred right now, so he's kind of got no one to, have that conversation with.
Yeah, the wonderful isolating and keeping a whole big secret to yourself. So
Yep.
much fun. Great on the mental state.
Oh, absolutely. It's very good. So, for international titles for this episode, in German, it translates to The Gateway to Hell.
Hmm.
Uh,
Go
and
on nose there, Germany.
and in French, it translates to Good Night, Connor.
Ugh.
Alrighty.
Ugh.
So, the next episode we'll be discussing next week is a little episode called Forgiving.
Yay! It's supposedly gonna happen. Whether or not it's gonna be easy, who the heck knows?
Well, here's the little, very brief synopsis. Shortly after Holt abducts baby Connor to the uh, Court Quartoth, I don't know how you pronounce that, a
Yeah,
hell
it'll help.
dimension. Fred, Gunn, and Lauren try to sort out why Wesley betrayed them and how to get Connor back.
Yes.
And let's just say they're going to get Connor back eventually, but he's not going to be quite the same.
Again, I wouldn't be surprised. Like the particular thoughts is gonna be this. Oh man, there's gonna be a whole bunch of time shenanigans going on.
Something like that. Something like that. Oh, there's gonna be some good stuff coming up. Anyway,
Oh boy.
until next time, I've been Paul.
And I've been Dave.